Hey, what's up guys? If you don't already know me, my name's Tyler. I'm a colorist and DP in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've worked with Elevation Worship, Elevation Rhythm, Maverick City Music, David Crowder, done a few commercials, and hopefully, that just keeps going on. But today I'm gonna show you one of my signature looks when it comes to live music. I always loved 16mm film. Unfortunately, you can't shoot really long live recordings with 16mm film. So sometimes you have to emulate it. And that's chill, because today I'm gonna show you how to do it. All right, so we're gonna hop into DaVinci Resolve. I'm gonna pick a few good frames. And as you can see, I already have my grade on here. So let's break down this grade. So this is what it looks like with Rec. 709. Super purple, daylight balanced. There's some magenta in there, some blues, Okay, awesome. That's great. If that's what you're going for, sick. You can stop right there. Honestly, this is Blackmagic footage. It looks great. I think the Rec. 709 is super acceptable. Looks great right off the bat. But we're going for something different. So generally what I start with is a conversion from Blackmagic or whatever color space I'm working in into RE Log C. And then from there, I will throw on the provided Kodak 2383 film print LUT. So if you don't know how to get there, you can right click, go to LUT, film looks. I choose D55 just because it's daylight balanced, but sometimes D60 and D65 look good on the footage, depending upon what you're doing. So right here, since we're going into Rec. 709, that's our color space output. We are going to click on the Rec. 709 Kodak 2383 D55. So already, this is pretty good, pretty usable. Got the exposure right in camera, looks good. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back and mellow out the highlights and lift the shadows to emulate film a little bit more. So what I did here was in my HDR panels, I set my color space since I'm working in off of a Blackmagic design camera. I'm gonna go wide gamut Gen 4 and 5. And then for the gamma, we're gonna go with BD Film Gen 5, because that's what I was working with. We get from this to this, and you can see the scopes flatten out pretty nicely, and it's starting to look softer, more pleasing. That's awesome. Personally, I hate purple. I just do. I'm sorry. All the lighting directors out there who love putting purple on stage, stop. None of us film guys like it. Just stop doing it. Anyway, so I'm gonna shift all my purples to blue, and I use the color warper tool to do so. So basically you can just go in, click around the range, and then it'll show you down on the scopes right here. And I just decided to grab everything within the blue and the purple range and just shift it right over to a nice little blue. Since we are emulating film in this specific grade, I'm gonna put my grain next, because when you get your film back from the lab, there's already grain on it and it's in log. So why don't we just throw grain in there and as it's getting converted from a log to another log before it hits our 2383 print. So in here, I always use a version of 16mm 500T. And if you really want to copy my settings, go ahead and look here. Okay, pause the video there. Okay, great, awesome. Let's move on. I like saturated images. Sometimes, depends. But since we're in a live setting and there's a lot of color here, let's saturate that B. So the way that I do that is by coming into my RGB mixer, max out my red output, green output, blue output. I drop it down to 75%. So right here, looks great. You can ship it just like that, but 500T film stocks are so cool. So what I do is I like using a parallel mixer to separate my highs and my lows. So overdo it. Everything's blue. It's that cyan color cast from 500T that you love. 7219, We love that. So what I'm doing here is I'm just pushing a snap ton of cyan into my highs. And then I'm balancing out, let me enable this. I'm balancing it out on the low end using my curves. So that's what this looks like. And went in through my red, my greens, and my blues, and I just adjusted the curves to make the low end look a little bit more pleasing. So without it, that, now with it, it kind of brings the separation back of all the magentas and other colors that were already in there. So yes, without that, we're looking like this. Honestly, it looks good in this specific lighting scenario. I'll show you one later that it actually separates it a lot. Also, love the glow node. Here's a little hack for you. Take your glowing image, drop that boy all the way down, right here in the threshold, all the way to 0. And then you bring it down to soft light and it just adds a little bit extra color depth down there. What's that at? 110? Cool. So this is what it would do. Looks like you put Vaseline on your camera. Sick. You can do that. Why not? You know? Or if you hit add, it just adds a bunch of crap. Screen, you know, great. Awesome. That's awesome. Multiply. Wow. So dark. But soft light, it just gives you that extra bit. And then you just dial it back until it looks good. And I only want a little bit in there. So I will end around here. After that, always love the vignette. We're already getting a vignette here from the 8mm lens that I was using. I always love adding in a vignette. So go in, create a node here, out. Whenever you're adding the node, just, what is it? There we go. Add node, add outside, and it'll create this alpha layer over. It'll just do the opposite of what your in node is. So here I have a mask going across, just pushing up the gain a little bit, 3 points. And then on my out, I'm bringing down the overall image 10 points on the edge. So without it, looks like that. With it, like that. Just a little bit of extra pop in the center of your image, which is always great. Then what I do is I add sharpening, since this is going to YouTube, most likely. Go over here to your radius. What an unexpected turn of events. Turns out I was using this as a halation somehow. So I was only sharpening the red channel, which honestly, I'm gonna leave it. It's cool. Yeah, we're emulating 16mm film. So that means some stuff just doesn't make sense. Normally you would link all of the radius together in your blur tool and you just drop it down like 2 points, 3 points, depending upon where it's going. And then I have a node on the end, which I left off, but it'll give you extra punch. So it's just contrast up to 100 points, 198 points of contrast. Sweet, on to the next image. So here's one of E. Edwards, amazing guitarist on Elevation Worship and Rhythm. And now everybody else uses E, which is great because he's an amazing musician. And I think everybody should be used on this team way more. So let's park it on something that looks good. Sure, that's cool. Same thing, right? So here's what it looks like in Rec 709, what I was looking at the back of the monitor during this night or day. I don't remember what it was. Here's what it's gonna look like with our 16mm emulation. So much more butter. It just has the butter, guys and girls. Filmmaking boys and girls. So obviously, if you wanna stay buttered up, this is the way to do it. Again, all of the same, nothing's changed except for probably my exposure and the HDR wheels. Yeah, just that. That's great. Also, HDR wheels, if you don't already use them, you should be using those over normal primaries. DaVinci just has this sort of magic inside of it that just lets it say, I know what your sensor is supposed to do, and I'm gonna make it look pretty whenever I make lighting adjustments. This tool is amazing. It looks so much better than your primaries. So we move on to this shot of Otis behind the drums. Ooh, super crazy right here. Let's go to a really bright part. Cool, super bright. Awesome. Now we just need to bring down our exposure. Push it down to a level that we like. About that. Drop my highlights a little bit. Bring down my overall light. Bring up my shadows. Actually, push the shadows down a bit. Yeah, looks good. Awesome. Now Nick, one of the sexiest looking bass players you'll ever meet. This is just a good shot, just in general, of Nick. Let's see that in Rec 709. Doink. That's fugly. I would say that's fugly. So, in this instance, Rec 709, not our friend. But this 16 mil grade is our friend. So, turn this back on. This is really where this high that I was talking about earlier, the highlight separation, just the separating your very bright parts of your image with cyan for a 500T kind of vibe. It's not 500T. It isn't. Nothing's gonna beat actually using the real thing. But if you really wanna get a look that looks cool and similar, this is the way to go. So, you know, if I take these off, nope. If I take these off, we get that weird magenta cast that we were getting in the Rec 709 image where our lighting was a little bit more purple. The bottom color wash was just yucky purple. The thing about purple is whenever you have it in your image, it's like getting a cut and you have to put Neosporin on it. Nobody wants to put Neosporin on it and nobody wants to cut to begin with, but you have to do it. To stop our image from getting infected in this metaphorical cut, we have to shift everything because purple is fugly. That is fugly. Shift that all to blue. Then we're gonna go to our high separation. Boom. Everything's blue. We're underwater and we're Aquaman. Fire. Not really. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna balance it back out. Doink. And that is just a sexy looking dude. And you can add the extra contrast. Look at that punch, the extra punch, right? Again, 198 points of contrast. Fire, fire punchy boy. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna move away from all of these colors and we're gonna go to just freaking straight tungsten. Okay, so here's Josh playing some keys. He's crying or something, I don't know. I'm just kidding, he's not crying. He's just really into the music. Here's what it looks like without the grade. Here's what it looks like with Rec 709. Magenta. Magenta not cool. Nobody likes magenta, unless you do. In which case, do whatever the hell you want. But my preference is always green. Take off this LUT, put the grade back on. Look at that green in the highlights. Baby, this isn't even 16. This isn't 500T at this point, honestly. This is just like, kind of like a low-key film emulation. Take off our separation. Now it's just really red. It is what it is. That still doesn't do anything. I don't know why I put that there. The glow adds a little bit extra punch. Could take it or you leave it. Let's turn on this separation. Boing. Everything freaking green, blue, under the sea, Little Mermaid vibes. But then we balance that boy back out and she is soaring. Oh, here's a nice little pretty. We got that circle in the background giving off extra vibe. Under the sea, balance. There's that separation again. That's what we need. It gives that nice little light punch to anything that falls into that range of light value. Sick. Anyway, guys, I hope that was helpful. I hope you learned something. I didn't do a full color breakdown, like look breakdown and build it with you. Cause this one I hold near and dear to my heart. This grade sits in my power grades as like a go-to whenever I need something quick and on the fly. I'm super proud of this little one, and it doesn't work on every scenario. It really doesn't. When it comes to stage lighting, anything goes. You'll be using stuff that you've never thought of in your life. I have never thought that I was going to use hue versus sat curve in an image where I'm just pulling out all the red and I'm stacking it on itself because it won't go away. Shout out Panasonic V-Log from Vericam LTs. The most trash cinema camera in all of history, aside from the C100 and the C200s. But that's a whole different story. Preference is everything. You know, it is what it is. In the future, I'm gonna be doing look creation tutorials or like look creation journeys, if you will, where I'll be able to go through with you and you can follow along, and we'll build a look from scratch and just see what we come up with. Yeah, thanks guys. Hope this helped out. Hope you enjoyed watching it. I hope I wasn't too boring. Suggest what you'd like me to do next. If you want me to do a color breakdown of something that I've worked on previously, like I'm planning on doing a color breakdown on Elevation Worship's album Lion. I graded that. If you have anything else that you want me to do, like specific scenarios, if you could think of, like, hey, I was outside in harsh daylight and I wasn't happy with the color, what would you do? I can go out, film something in harsh daylight with my friends or just by myself, and you know, we can come back to the color suite and edit it up and see what we can come up with, and maybe it would help you, or maybe it's just you adding extra looks into your back pocket, thinking about your images differently. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's been good. My name's Tyler, and I'll see you later.